On today's video, we're going to visit the top 10 real life places you can actually go to. These are places you may have seen on TV or on some type of animated series, but there actually are real places you can physically go to and see. So that's what we're doing today. And number one, the most obvious animated place in the United States that just happens to be a real place. Number one is South Park, Colorado. The real town's name is Fairplay. This is so real that it actually shapes what the entire economy and life in this town is actually about. As grotesque as these little cartoons are, South Park really is the actual town of Fairplay, and the TV series unfortunately actually shapes the life of the people in this town. And it really feels like when you're in this town, you're literally in the set of a cartoon about four little friends who go on mischief and all types of misappropriation that kids that age should probably not engage in. Between the popularity of this TV show over the years and the unmistakable resemblance to Fairplay, Colorado, there's no doubt that the real setting of South Park is the actual town of Fairplay. Imagine living in a town that is known for one thing: to be on a TV show about four really bad kids doing all types of horrendous crap. Absolutely, probably the worst town in America to raise a family. You would definitely not want to name your child Kenny in this town of Colorado. Number two is Quahog, Rhode Island. There's me making an impersonation of Peter Griffin from Family Guy. Cranston, Rhode Island is the real town, given away by its architecture. There's a lot of details in Family Guy would point to the fact that Peter Griffin lives in the Providence, Rhode Island metropolitan area. From the place where he works, allegedly he works at the Pawtucket Brewery, there's a lot that would indicate that Mr. Family Guy lives in Quahog in fiction, but in real life, it's Providence, Rhode Island. And while the town of Quahog doesn't exactly exist, there's so many circumstantial evidence that would support the idea that it's definitely the Providence, Rhode Island metropolitan area. Just look at the way this car drove up that driveway. Clearly the same speed and fashion in which the TV show would depict somebody driving. The similarities are simply unmistakable, and anybody who actually lives in this town is in the back of their mind aware of the fact that the town that they live in is really a fictional TV show. Number three is Arlen, Texas.
I tell you what, man, you just get the little WD-40, put that 10 right there. I've been calling y'all better front 2 months down there. Nobody answer.
I tell you what, Peggy, that boy ain't right.
I killed 50 men.
King of the Hill has to be one of the most amazing animated TV series that has ever been created in the history of television. And while Garland, Texas isn't exactly Arlen, Texas, there's definitely enough clues in the King of the Hill TV show, like the name of schools and other places, and enough circumstantial evidence to come to the conclusion that undoubtedly King of the Hill takes place somewhere in the Dallas metropolitan area. King of the Hill is one of my favorite TV shows that you'll catch me watching. I love how relevant the topics are, even though it was built a long time ago. Today, the scripts of this TV show are still relevant because as a child, we watched King of the Hill and it didn't mean anything to us. But now that we're adults, we kind of understand the satire, comedy, complete team of geniuses that assembled this TV show, and the characters are undoubtedly some of the most loving people you're ever gonna hate. However, many times the creator of these TV shows know that it's not a good idea to use the actual name of a town and only give us a few clues. Unlike the other TV shows we're going to talk about here, when it comes to King of the Hill, It's almost not conclusive, but you can pretty much guess that Arlen is Garland. Simply, the architecture of the neighborhoods in Garland most closely match what they're actually like on the TV show, with alleyways, fences. There's so much that you can pretty much pinpoint that all the other possibilities are not as precise. Despite the name of real landmarks in other Texas locations, the architecture alone is a dead giveaway. Number 4 is CJ's house in Compton, California. It's crazy that Just a Wild video game is actually based on a real physical place you can actually go to. It's wild that as you're in Compton, California, you'll see so many places that will unmarkably remind you of the fact they're in a video game. My parents definitely did not let me play that video game, but somehow I still had it. And well, despite the fact Mama tried, I did play the video game, and Grove Street is actually a real place you can go to. As we spin the block here on this tiny little street, you can kind of understand that this is the street the video game is based out of, and it must be an awfully weird experience to live on this particular street in Los Angeles and expect to walk out of your house and have a normal day, and not to think that when you leave your house, you're in some type of video game. Undoubtedly, the similarities between the real place and the video game are so exact that it's undoubtedly the actual setting of the video game. Number 5 is Roblox, which undoubtedly takes place in Bonita Springs, Florida. This is about 5 miles away from where I grew up in Naples, Florida. And Roblox is unmistakably Bonita Springs, Florida. Not only are the buildings, the benches, the paints on the specific buildings, the trees, quite literally like everything in this town actually exists in real life. There's no doubt that Roblox takes place in Southwest Florida, and many locations in Bonita Springs is where the video game starts. Estero, Florida, San Carlos, and Fort Myers are the exact locations on the video game. And the fact that I grew up in this area to see the area that I grew up in featured in a video game is more disturbing than you could imagine. There's specific missions you have to go on in the video game, and during the wintertime when people from up north bring their kids down to Bonita Springs to vacation, some of the missions that you have to do on the video game take place in real life, and I believe that this video game has created a serious crime concern for the people of Bonita Springs. And I'm not even making this up. Of some of the missions that you actually have to do in the video game are actual crimes that have started to take place in Bonita Springs. And this is possibly why video game creators shy away from doing exactly what these people did and replicating an actual city, because as these crimes take place, undoubtedly the business owners will blame the video game for the things that happen in real life, as some people seem to blur the imagination with real life. Even the police cars say Fort Myers Police, even though it's in Bonita Springs. It's kind of an interesting thing, but I'll tell you, it's awfully weird. There's the Fort Myers police car. I really do believe that a lot of the crime that we're facing in Southwest Florida is directly related to this video game, as people play these video games, go on these crazy missions, and then they actually come down here and try to do the same exact thing in real life, since even the police cars are exactly the same. So if you've been in Southwest Florida and you've seen some of these crazy things that are happening, some of the crazy outfits people wear, and some of the wild things they do at specific locations, it's because they learned it through a video game. You can just make out across the street the iconic Master and Bait Shop right there. Clearly, this is a real-life place. You're literally on Bonita Beach Road. There's the bait store. There's Vanderbilt Drive. Now he's in front of the bait store. I mean, it's remarkably identical down to the trees. And again, I just can't get over the fact that my actual hometown, businesses I've been inside of, stores that I used to buy like anything from, like this is the actual drink store right here. I actually know the girl that owns that place. I've worked for her, hauling away stuff from her business. Yes, it's very weird that real life places that I've been to are actually on a video game. A lot of the subscribers we have play the Roblox video game, and I think it kind of plays into the I don't know what you want to call it, the mystery of my YouTube channel. Number 6, Beavis and Butthead. Undoubtedly, in my mind, Beavis and Butthead takes place in Abilene, Texas. While the TV show is not specific, it only generalizes it's somewhere in western Texas. If you very carefully watch Beavis and Butthead, the scenic views are unmistakably this town in Texas. And while the locals do not want to admit it, they're really embarrassed of this fact. And the TV show producers, same one as King of the Hill, were never specific about which town in Texas Beavis and Butthead lived in. I've extensively traveled western Texas with a few exceptions. Supposedly they live in Highland, Texas, which is an artificial fake place. In real life, it's Abilene, Texas, and I know the people that live there don't want to hear this, but there's just so many things that are unmistakable about it that I have to say Beavis and Butthead live in Abilene, Texas. Mr. Anderson in Beavis and Butthead is actually Hank Hill from King of the Hill, just a little bit different of a character, but the same character, same voice, same antics. And all that would suggest proximity to the Dallas area. So when you take western Texas and Dallas, Texas, and you find something in the middle, if you pay attention to Beavis and Butthead, there's more vegetation in their town than what you're going to find in western Texas. Yet not as much vegetation as Dallas. On top of that, you have the fact that it's not Midland or Odessa. So clearly, Beavis and Butthead live in Abilene, Texas. The vegetation, the fact that there's not too much oil-related stuff in their videos would cross out a few of the options. And the fact that it's not as dry as some other western Texas locations means that clearly the setting of Beavis and Butthead is Abilene, Texas. And I'm making this assumption all by myself simply because the TV show of Beavis and Butthead isn't exact on the location. But if you pay close attention to the background details, undoubtedly Abilene, Texas is the only place that would really make any sense. And that's really the beauty of animated TV, is that it creates a fake world based on a real world, and it's only up to your personal determination what you consider to be the real place. Sometimes the creators are not specific. Personally, I'm almost convinced that Abilene is the setting of Beavis and Butthead. Does anybody agree with me on that? Or has anybody thought about that conclusion? Take TV shows like Hey Arnold. To me, it was clearly either Philadelphia or Baltimore. However, despite the fact it's clearly one of those two settings, a lot of people think it's based in Washington or Oregon. Number 7 is Wilmington, North Carolina. The setting for the One Tree Hill TV show. Any woman in her 30s will remember the setting and the places where this TV show took place. Along the waterfront, you'll find many of the places that were featured on this TV show. Wilmington is actually a very beautiful beachside town with great beaches. The only downside is just the traffic to get on those beaches. But if you want to experience in real life a place worth visiting, unlike some of the other places we've gone through on this list, this is possibly one of the ones you may actually want to see in real life. Number 8 is 8 Mile Road in Detroit, Michigan. 8 Mile was the movie of Eminem's life, the white rapper from Detroit, Michigan. Eminem actually grew up in a real place. 8 Mile Road is based off of real life places that you can actually visit. And if you ever go to Detroit, Michigan and find yourself with absolutely nothing better to do with your time, I guess in theory you could go to the mobile home park where Eminem grew up and see the scary streets of Detroit, Michigan. 8 Mile Road, where the movie took place and where a lot of the rap lyrics would have undoubtedly unfolded. Well, this is definitely one of the crappiest things you could do with your time. Detroit, Michigan kind of sucks. There's not too much to do there. So I guess we took the time while in Detroit to visit the mobile home park where Eminem would have grown up. This is definitely a grimy place, and I can assure you that if you've watched the movie 8 Mile, that it's probably exactly like you saw in the movie. And because of that movie, people who visit Detroit, Michigan for the first time are going to be inclined to want to ride down 8 Mile Road. It's definitely not a tourist attraction. It's a very dangerous inner city area, but to a lot of people who are visiting Detroit for the first time, they may be curious to see the real life 8 Mile Road since they saw the movie. It is a very large road that goes right across the length of Detroit. So if you're interested in the specific spots of the movie, you may want to do some research, being that 8 Mile Road is so extensive. Number 9 is Duck Dynasty, located in Monroe and West Monroe, Louisiana. You can actually visit in real life the actual town of Duck Dynasty people. The redneck hood ratchery of this place is completely unmatched to anything you've ever seen. While some people say that the characters are exaggerated on this TV show, if you spend enough time in this town, you'll come to the conclusion that it's probably real. I've got a few family members that are completely fanatical about this TV show, even though they would have absolutely nothing in common with the real life characters if they met them in real life. And sometimes that's the beauty of television, that we can relate to people who in real life we would have possibly absolutely nothing in common with. Number 10 is Rocket Power. If you're in your 30s, you undoubtedly remember this adventurous cartoon series that was on Nickelodeon. In the cartoon series, the town was referred to as Ocean Springs, but undoubtedly the real life setting is some of the oceanside communities of San Diego, California. I did not watch Nickelodeon. I was more about Cartoon Network. However, Rocket Power was so cool to me that I would actually betray Cartoon Network and watch Nickelodeon just for this one TV show. Areas like Oceanside, California would undoubtedly have been the real life setting of this adventurous TV show, where they would surf, rollerblade, and engage in other sporting activities in competition with kids that were definitely from bad neighborhoods. Undoubtedly, if you watch Rocket Power and you've been to San Diego, California, you've seen the similarities, not only in the name of the places, but the actual settings, and just a lot of the cultural influence of surfing and rollerblading. All that would tie in to denote the clear fact that without any doubt, Ocean Springs is really Oceanside, California, or somewhere else in the San Diego area. I somehow also got the vibe that it could have been somewhere on Hawaii, but there's more indications that it would have been in California. Regardless, San Diego, California is an awesome city, and the fact that it's on a cartoon series about how cool it is only adds to the cool factor. Is there any other real life place that I forgot to mention that you think could have made the list? Places that are clearly real life places despite their depiction on TV or cartoons, or real places you can actually go to? These are real life places depicted on animated TV series or other TV shows that you can actually go to. For me, San Diego, California, and Rocket Power, as well as the King of the Hill, were some of the most impactful places where I could clearly make the connection between the animated world and the real life places. Some other places that we visited in real life that many people saw on TV and they found remarkably accurate to the real life are places like Albuquerque, New Mexico, that are featured on TV shows like Breaking Bad. Many people on the video mentioned specifically the similarities between the real life Albuquerque and what they've seen on TV. Old Block in Chicago is another trending place you may have seen a lot on social media and on the news. And yes, you can actually drive through Old Block in Chicago. Not sure why you'd want to though. It's very scary, very dangerous. And on the night that we went, it was freezing cold, which made it seem even creepier. the Golden Acres housing projects in Broward County, Florida, where Kodak Black seems to film a lot of his music videos, is another real life place you can visit that you may have seen a lot on TV, music videos, and popular culture. And I believe now this apartment complex is actually featured on a video game as well, with the only difference between the real life place and the fictitious place is that in the real life place you cannot see the Fort Lauderdale skyline in the background, but in the video game the background is the city skyline, which in real life cannot be seen from these apartments. Undoubtedly, for the residents of this community, it is not unbeknownst to them that one of the most famous artists of today's time comes from their community, and that their community ends up on a lot of music videos.